Welcome and good afternoon. This is Commish Orr, and today I'm going to continue a series that I did a little bit ago now, and that is taking a look at MLB play-by-play data and kind of how that breaks down with different out situations, runner advancement, that kind of thing. The difference is that I am now using the 2023 season data, so just season data from last season. And so the first video I'm going to do here is taking a look at the types of infield outs and that distribution amongst the infielders. And I'm going to not only take a look at what those numbers look like for 2023, but I'm going to compare that to 2022, mostly because the main difference being that the shift was outlawed, of course, for 2023. So we're going to take a look at and see if that had a huge impact on on which fielders were fielding the most different types of balls and that kind of thing. With all that said, a couple of little caveats, as always. One is that this data does not include bunts, because those would skew the results, of course. It does include throwing and fielding errors, because those were balls that were fielded by an infielder. So I did include those. It's not a huge number. Comparatively speaking, I think it's less than 1%. But those are included in here, and so I'm just going to kind of walk through this, and then we'll take a look at the last years and see if there are any major differences. The other difference that I'll note is that I added this year foul outs, so we could see the breakdown of foul outs. Overall, we had almost 52,000 out chances, we'll say, on balls fielded by an infielder. And these are broken down by position, of course, and by the type of batted ball. So is it a line drive? Is it a pop-up or fly ball? Is it a foul out? And is it a ground ball? Obviously, foul outs would also be pop-ups, but I broke those out separately because I just think it would be thought it would be interesting to take a look and see how many balls fielded were foul outs. So that's kind of what we have here. Again, I got this data off of the retro sheet play-by-play data from 2023. I have another video that tells how to go about downloading that and getting an Excel file out of it. So if you're curious to kind of delve deeper into this stuff and that kind of thing interests you, go check out that video. And I kind of walk through that in detail. I did another one of these videos for 2022 earlier on the channel, but this one will kind of take the place of that video since it's updated, and we're going to be looking at 2022 also. All right, let's get into the data. So what you'll see here is that the top graph shows the raw data, the actual numbers, and the bottom graph is percentages. So as we can see here, of the 51,930 instead of 51,939, the 51,930, about 6.5% were fielded by the pitcher, just under 2% by the catcher, 16.5% by first baseman, 25.5% by second baseman, a little less than 23% by third baseman, and then a little over 27% by shortstop. So that's kind of the breakdown by position. It's just what we would expect. Middle infielders are getting a majority of the work, though third basemen get a pretty good chunk of the percent also. Less so first baseman. And again, I think that's because, mostly righty hitters, and if they're pull hitters, they're going to hit it down the third base line more than they're going to hit it down the first base line, for example. That's just my guess. But the breakdown is pretty much what we expect in terms of position. Catcher is not fielding very many, and the pitcher is not fielding very many because other positions are probably taking over and getting those balls. Not to mention that the catcher is only going to get a dribbler in front of the plate, maybe, or a foul out behind the plate, that kind of thing. So those are the percentages by position. What about the breakdown by type of batted ball? So line drives, for example, we can see only not quite 6% of balls are line drives. A little over 12% are pop-ups in fair territory. 5.5% are foul outs, which would be pop-ups in foul territory. So if you add those together, it's about 17, almost 18%. And then three quarters of the balls here are ground balls, which again, I think all that makes sense and is pretty much what we would expect. Do we see anything weird with the positions and the types of batted balls? Let's take a look at that. Well, the interesting one to me is foul outs. Now, I would have expected that the catcher would be a majority of the balls that catcher fields are probably foul outs, which they are, about almost 2/3. Though about 1/3 are just dribblers in front of the plate, roughly. I'm assuming that's what these ground balls are, because otherwise another position would be fielding them. So that kind of makes sense. And then, in terms of first and third baseman, you have first baseman, almost 15% of balls that they field are foul outs, and just under 8% for third baseman. But the thing that was interesting to me is that you had pitchers fielding a handful of foul outs, 18 total, and even the second baseman and shortstop, right around 50 plays here. So not a huge percentage, but there were some balls, foul outs, fielded by the second baseman and shortstop. Though that's kind of what was surprising to me. Conventional wisdom would say first baseman, third baseman, sure, catchers, but I didn't consider that there are times where a second baseman ranges over that way or a shortstop ranges over the other way and fields balls in foul territory at a decent enough amount that, again, not even a percent, but there's a 50 or 56 times that has happened in 2023. So pretty interesting to me. That's kind of what's kind of stood out to me. If we look at ground balls are of course the majority of fielded balls. That's 3/4 of the time. And in the distribution, we see pretty much what we'd expect. A few more on the left-hand side of the diamond. Shortstop and third baseman are fielding 78+%. Second baseman, less than 77%. First baseman, even smaller amount, 68%. So again, I think that's because you have righty pull hitters, and so more of the balls are going to the left side of the diamond. So that was interesting to me. Now, how does this compare to 2022? Remember, in 2022, the shift was used somewhat heavily. In 2023, the shift is it's been outlawed. So I kind of came in expecting that we'd see forgive the pun, but we would see a shift in the statistics. So overall, what we see is that for the most part, the percentages don't really shift a huge amount, though they do shift a little bit. So if we look at 2022, we see shortstops fielded about 28%, and in 2023, about 27%. So, right in the same range, not a lot of difference. Third baseman is almost right on the money. In fact, it is 22.76% in both cases. Second baseman, it has gone up a little bit. It's ticked up a little bit, 25.5 compared to 25. First baseman went from 15.5% to 16.5%. So again, if we look, we're seeing a little bit of an uptick in the batted balls that a first baseman fields, which makes sense because with the shift on, the first baseman didn't have to play off of the bag as much. So some of those were probably being picked up by the second baseman, for example. Though the second base percent has actually gone up as well. So again, that could be a case where the fielders were stacked over in that on that side maybe, and they're not now. So the outs are kind of more evenly distributed. But again, the huge swings we aren't really seeing between 2022 and 2023 overall. Pitchers, by the way, are right on in the same range. Same with catchers. So really, the only positions that are really have really seen a difference, shortstops. The shortstop percentage has gone down 1%, and the second baseman has gone up a little bit, and the first baseman has gone up a little bit. Actually, more than a little bit, almost 1%. So some of those shortstop fielded balls are now being fielded by first baseman and second baseman, for example, but not like a huge percentage change. We're talking about 1%, a 1% shift from 2022 to 2023. Not to me that statistically significant. I was also kind of wanting to compare the 2 years because obviously any 1 year can be an anomaly and may not be representative of the distribution in general, because things just fluctuate. And so, if we factor that into the equation, I'm not so sure that it really made that huge of a difference on any particular play. It may have made a bit difference because of the shift, but in the overall numbers, again, we're only seeing about a 1% difference from 2022 to 2023 in certain positions. Not a huge significant jump in those percentages. So just some interesting stuff. I didn't track foul outs last year, but I did take a look at those this year. So there's no way to compare those. But that's kind of that's my analysis, if you will, and the breakdown of the plays, and the infield out types and distribution amongst the infielders. So let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. Would you have expected a bigger jump or a bigger change from 2022 when the shift was in effect to 2023 when it was not in effect? Or was there anything else that kind of surprised you about the numbers? Were you also, I guess I knew that second baseman and shortstops were fielding foul outs now and then, but I'd kind of not thought about it, especially when it comes to tabletop baseball sims. Generally speaking, it's only the first baseman, third baseman, or catcher that's getting those foul outs, not the shortstop, not the second baseman, generally speaking. So I was just kind of interested to be reminded of that. But as I said, if you want to leave some comments down below, my plan is to kind of do another set of videos like I did last for 2022, the last baseball season, and then compare those to 2023. So do 2023 and kind of do a comparison to see if things have changed. But judging based on this, I would say we're probably not going to see a lot of differences from 1 year to the next. But I'm still going to take a look at some things just to see what the difference was. With all that said, thank you so much for watching this. And until next time, have a great evening.